What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of GOAT Talk, the podcast where me and my dad have conversations about religion, society, and a host of other topics, all centered around the greatest to ever do it in faith. What's going on, y'all? My name is Ryan, and this is my dad, Pastor Christopher Hale. How are you, sir?
I'm doing good, son. How are you doing?
Good. Excited to be back for another episode. We're going to have a lot of fun today in our conversation, I think. But before we dive into our main topic for today, we always start off every episode with talking about a GOAT topic outside of our main content for this podcast on today. And my question for you today is, I've lost about almost 30 pounds in the last 3-4 months. So I haven't been able to eat this thing, but growing up, my favorite food has always been French fries. I love French fries, and I have had debates all my life about the greatest French fries of all time. So I've got to get your perspective and your feedback, and then I'll give you the right answer afterwards. But what is the greatest French fries of all time in your opinion?
That was actually funny. You're going to give me the right answer. The right answer for me, I think the best French fry no longer exists. I don't know what they did, but when I was growing up, your age, whatever, everybody stopped for McDonald's fries. You wanted to get hot fries. Didn't matter where you at. You could pull up to any McDonald's, and they was always gonna deliver.
Okay.
Now, to me, French fries are hit and miss.
Yeah.
You know, I keep trying to find, to be honest, a good fry. That one has me spent. If I had to say the all-time great, it no longer exists. It sounds like it's been extinct. It used to be the McDonald's fry.
So you don't have a French fry that you really like today? Like if you're really in the mood for a French fry or a burger with fries, you don't have a fry or a place that you really want to go?
I probably will go try and find a good burger as opposed to fries, because fries have been, I love them. That's why I've been somewhat disappointed.
Yeah, that's very yeah. You got to get with the time. McDonald's has been extinct. You're right.
I know.
Been extinct. They're nowhere close anymore.
Well, give me one to try then.
Five Guys. Those fries are excellent. Chick-fil-A has been my favorite for a long, long time. I love Chick-fil-A's waffle fries. But Five Guys,
hot.
Yeah,
they're hot.
Yep.
Cooked
Five
right.
Guys fries are really good, and then a very underrated fry. I don't really like this place's food, but their fries are really good. Is Wingstop's. They have some good fries too. Yep, with the ranch.
I'm gonna throw out one that when they're done right, Red Robin's fries.
Yeah.
Put the little sauce.
No.
That's debatable.
That's another place that's gone extinct.
Yes,
Yeah.
well, you know.
No love for Red Robin anymore.
I got
That's why they're giving fries away these days.
I hear you.
Unlimited. No, yeah, I'm not a Red Robin fan, but
Okay.
Five Guys fries,
They-
Wingstop, Chick-fil-A. I think that was a solid 3.
Okay, for you.
That's the right answer.
Okay.
But today we're going to dive into a topic that I feel like gets talked about from a lot of different angles, especially in church, but not only in church, in the world today, and that is faith and what it means to have faith, what it looks like to have faith in difficult situations and different things of that nature. I myself, being transparent, just went through a season the last few months, earlier this year, should I say, where I really needed to have faith, because I was in a place where I was looking for a job for a while, was planning to get married and all of that good stuff, and really needed a job so I can be able to provide and all of that good stuff. And I can definitely say that in this season, or that season, should I say, my faith was stretched immensely when it came to really figuring out why I believed God, or why I trusted God, not only just trusted him as God or the Lord over my life, but why I trusted him as a provider, a sustainer, all of those things when I really didn't have what I was used to having the last several years of being in work and being in my career and different things of that nature. So what would you say, or why would you say it's difficult at times? Because I'm not saying, looking back on it, hindsight is 2020, obviously, I wish I would have had that amount of faith going into it, but I didn't, right? That amount of faith came over time, over those months of not having a job, over those months of having interview after interview and stuff like that, and then finally finding the right fit. Why would you say it's so tough in today specifically to have faith when it comes to difficult situations?
I think it starts with our misconception of God.
What you mean?
People, when they want to say faith, they actually want God to be the genie in the bottle. They rub the bottle, they got 3 wishes, and God grants them right on time.
Right.
When faith has to do with God's being more so than what God does for you. And if I have a misconception of God, my faith is going to at some point falter or be misconcepted.
Yeah.
What I mean by that is God wants you to love him, trust him, believe in him, regardless of the circumstances. And sometimes the only way we get there is to go through circumstances. I'm going to just try to see if I can show it a little bit, what helped my faith and maybe shed some more light.
Yeah.
When I was a young minister, about 20-some years old, we had an older deacon who was dealing with a terminal illness at the church I grew up in. And I just said I wanted to go over and visit him because I'd known him all my life and I loved his wife. And so I wanted to go over and pay him a visit. And I'm thinking I'm going over there to encourage him. And we started talking, and he said, at some point we got to talking about faith. And he said, faith for him was not whether God could heal him. Faith started, or his belief in God started, after he thought about what I do if God doesn't heal me. Do I love God any less? And so that made me change my whole thinking about God. So am I loving God for what he does, or I'm loving God for who he is?
Yeah.
So if I love God for who he is, then that changes my perspective of faith. And saying, when I'm put in a position or something comes in my life, how did I get here? Why am I here? What am I supposed to learn? But my faith should say God is going to bring me through. Then the other thing that strengthened my faith and always makes me change is your grandfather. Your grandfather battled a life illness, sickle cell anemia, and if his faith ever wavered, I never really saw it. Your grandfather was in and out of hospitals all the time. And he became Superman to me, because who can go to church, like not miss church, after then spend a week in the hospital, and he's strong enough to go, and he goes and nothing's changing.
Yeah.
So I said, that's a faith that, do I love God?
Right.
And so I think that's where it really starts, is that people's misconception of who God is really in their life and what faith is supposed to really do. And in your particular situation, the situation was allowed or sent to grow your faith.
Yeah.
To be able to meet your next challenge or testing, whatever that comes.
Right.
And so you don't get it unless you go through it.
Yeah. And I think that's the key, and the misconception that we sometimes have is that there are times where we are sent to a place or sent in a wilderness like season, or we have different storms or difficulties that we have to go to so that our faith can grow, so that we can have more faith for a future season. And I had an opportunity to teach a message not too long ago at a young adults event. Shout out to One Life. And we talked about faith. And what I was talking about was how there are times where we have what I like to call faith fatigue. And faith fatigue is kind of like what you were saying. It's not that we don't believe God. It's not that we don't love God, but it's our misconception of God, in a sense of, do we have enough faith in God that he can bring us to the finish line of whatever that looks like? Can he bring us to the finish line of our healing? Can he bring us to the finish line of our promise? Bring us to the finish line in my sense of getting a job, getting that miracle, getting that breakthrough. And I think lots of times, just like in the story of Hannah in the Bible, we see that she had to have faith for a baby, right? And we want a baby, whatever that looks like, in different seasons of our lives, right? But what I love about that story is that when she went to go pray, the Elijah was the guy. It was Elijah, right? Yeah, Elisha was the guy who told her that God was going to give her that baby. And even though the situation didn't change right in that time, she had to go in faith believing that it was actually going to happen. And I think for us sometimes, and hopefully this encourages somebody out there, I think for us in times, it's like we have faith, but we want it to be like that genie in the bottle situation where it's like, okay, as soon as God says this thing is going to happen, I need it to happen right now. I need it to happen instantly. But it's like we have to have faith that what he said will come to pass and actually go through it, so that we not only have faith for that thing, but now we have more faith to trust him through difficult situations as well.
And going back to when the prophet Eli was talking with
Yeah,
her,
Eli. Yes, I said Elijah.
the misconception comes with time.
Mm-hmm.
God works on Kairos.
Yeah.
We work on Chronos.
Mm-hmm.
What that means is, on our time, church don't really want to talk about it. God's always late.
Right.
People thinking he's just late.
Mm-hmm.
Like your rent was due, and the check didn't show up.
Yeah.
In your mind, in your faith,
Mm-hmm.
in your walk, the reality is God was late.
Yeah.
In God's time, God didn't want to pay the rent because he had a different plan.
Mm-hmm.
Because maybe the only way to get you out of the situation was to not pay the rent.
Yeah.
But you couldn't see the bigger plan.
Right.
We've all been there.
Mm-hmm.
I tell them, if you haven't just lived long enough, you're going to go through a moment in which God is going to appear late, but he's going to work it all out.
Mm-hmm.
And I just think that those misconceptions is what it truly does impact our faith. Dealing with Hannah.
Yeah.
The thing that's oftentimes missed in that was Hannah was barren, which meant she couldn't have children.
Right.
So they thought.
Mm-hmm.
But it was at an appointed time.
100%. The scripture even said it, that God caused her to be barren. Yeah.
Because sometimes we go through things so that only God gets the glory.
Yep. 100%.
And so we can be a testimony to somebody else that's going to happen to see it.
Mm-hmm.
Because what's often overlooked and not really talked about in that about Hannah's story is when she writes a song.
Yeah.
And
Afterwards.
the song tells about how many more kids she had.
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't, like you said, her ability to produce.
Mm-hmm.
Her ability to produce was delayed.
Yeah.
So that God got the glory. And sometimes in order for God to get the glory, he has to properly position us in places, which requires us to have faith.
Yeah, no, 100%. And you talked about delay. I think what happens at time is, obviously we live in a society today where we love instant gratification. And I think God doesn't, like you said, he doesn't work like that. Like, he will cause things to be delayed so that he can get the glory, like you said, so that he can also help you to grow in a way that you didn't even think was possible. And it's like God is setting you up specifically, divinely, so that he can put you in the right position for something even greater. In my situation, it was like I had to go through interview after interview after interview, not even knowing that God was positioning me for a job that was going to be a crazy raise, a crazy position that set me up for success, even in the long term, more than I was even thinking about. So it's like sometimes when you are looking at a situation from one angle, you need to start looking at it from the lens that God sees it through, right? Mm-hmm. We're only looking at it from our angle, what we want, what we need, how we need it right now. Like you talked about, I need the rent money now, I need a job now, I need this now. But it's like, hey, how could God be using this thing to set you up for bigger things, right? Like we talked about for Hannah's situation. Yeah, she wanted one baby, but God blessed her with, what was it, 7 children. So it's like, hey, you may have faith for the one, but do you have faith for the 7, right? That God is trying to bless you with.
Yeah. And what really is often overlooked in that, I'm going to tell you what I so help somebody with faith.
Yeah.
Is what I like about that story is God knew all the time he was going to give her them additional children.
Mm-hmm.
He wanted her to get to a point to where she released the one back to him.
Yeah.
So sometimes we're going through to find out, again, do we really love God enough for God to really release the blessing? In other words, can he trust us?
Yeah,
And
100%.
so we got to go through it. He said, I got a whole lot out here I want you
right, to have. Yeah.
but do you have the character, the
Mm-hmm.
confidence, the ability to handle what I want to give you?
Yeah, and really, is your faith in the blessing or in the blesser?
Exactly.
Right? Because it's like, if my faith is in what I'm after, then that's gonna be faith that is not going anywhere past when I get the blessing. You get what I'm saying? But if my faith is in the one who gives the blessing, then I have faith not only for this thing, but that he can give me more and more and more as he sees fit. So it's not even about his lack of ability. And I think that is one of the misconceptions that we see at times, and that we even go through and deal with at times, is like, hey, if God doesn't do it, maybe he's not able to do it, or maybe he doesn't want to do it, or maybe I did something wrong. But it's not even any of that. And it's definitely not his ability. It's just that it's not the, like you said, the appointed time.
Yeah. And I'll use you as an example. Something that I've thought about is the job you currently have that God has blessed you with. Was it really available back when you needed it?
Yeah.
And God knew he was positioning you for something greater, but you were going to have to go through this right now. But this little temporary,
Right.
it's for what God has on the back end,
Yep.
so that you know how to trust him,
Exactly.
that he's a provider. So when people say, oh, no, I done had God provide. I done been through. Because, you know, when we're in ministry in any level, the greatest thing is we got to go through something so that when we're speaking it, it's coming from a level of conviction.
Yeah.
You know, it's
100%.
easy to preach when you ain't been through nothing.
100%.
But it also changes how your message is received.
Yeah.
You know, but when you got skin in the game, mileage, T-shirt, all that stuff, people begin like, wait a minute, hold on, this is hitting a little different.
Yeah.
And I often thought, because I've been there before too, is when there's a position that God really has ordained or set aside for you, you have to go back and look that when you really wanted, when you wanted it, was it even available?
Yeah. No, 100%. 100%.
You know.
Yeah. No, that's really good.
And he knew, he's like, oh no, my child is perfect for this. But I have to let time,
Yeah.
the chronos of man, take place. And I'm going to properly position.
Yeah.
And he will use people to make sure you're in the right positioning.
100%. 100%. Yeah. So that's huge. It's really about, like you talked about, waiting till the right time that God sees fit for you, and having faith that he's going to get you to that right time. And I think that's very important. And what I want to talk about a little bit before we wrap up is really having faith for things, and then having faith as you go through things. Because I think that the faith concept is the same, but I think there's different things that we need to do when you're like, when I'm believing for a job, I'm doing some things different, right? I'm reading different scriptures. I'm watching different sermons, so my faith can grow in that specific area. But when I'm going through something, like you were talking about with Granddaddy, when he was going through the sickle cell thing, when people are dealing with cancer, when people are dealing with different things, you have to kind of work that a different faith muscle, if that makes sense. You get what I'm saying? Or would you say it's kind of similar?
I would say it's a little similar, because our help is always coming from the Word.
Right.
And depending on what you need, you have to go find that in the Word.
Yeah.
If I need healing, I go find it in the Word. If I'm looking for a job and I need encouragement, both sides, situations require sometimes encouragement, so I can be encouraged in both ways. But if I want to see God delivering, so then I go read about how God delivers.
Correct. Yeah, that's what I was getting at.
You know, and I just think that as we grow, our faith grows. We don't just seek God out or seek his word out when I'm in a situation.
Yeah.
That's why I think meditation and devotion time is very important for a believer, because you don't wait till you get in a situation to begin to develop it or know where to go.
Right.
If this becomes a part of you, it's easier for God to lead you to an area that's going to encourage you in the moment.
Yeah.
And sometimes he prepares you through your devotion before the situation even occurs.
100%.
So that when it comes, you're not overwhelmed.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, and I just think that, you know, as believers, we have to be consistent about it. You know, like we probably are watching different sports, and no matter what sport you watch, whether it's football, basketball, baseball, all the great ones has to practice.
Yeah.
They have to work on something in the off season.
100%.
You don't improve in the season. You improve in the off season.
Mm-hmm.
So Bible talks about being ready in season and out of season.
Yeah.
So that means my preparation for daily living is important.
Mm-hmm.
Preachers, you shouldn't just preparate to preach.
Yeah.
You need to have a devotion, a time you spend with God just for yourself.
Exactly.
So that those type things make preaching and ministering easier, because you're ministering through a clear and clean conscience and heart.
Yeah.
Because you spent time with God.
Yeah.
And I just think that those things ties back to your faith.
100%. Yeah. So it's really using that same muscle, like you said, but just kind of doing some different things or going to get different scriptures depending on what situation or season you may be in. Yeah. Good. Yeah, that's good perspective. So as we wrap up, what would you tell somebody who may be in a tough situation right now, maybe either going through something, believing for something? What is something really quick that you would tell them to encourage them, or something they can really do to grow their faith in this season?
I would encourage them to read Psalms and read Proverbs. Most times those books are overlooked. Psalms gives you encouragement. Proverbs gives you wisdom.
Mm-hmm.
So you need wisdom to deal with your situation, and you need Psalms encouragement to go through the situation.
Yeah.
But what you have to do going in is knowing that if God gives you a word that he's going to bring you out,
mm-hmm.
declare that word every day.
Yeah.
Declare that word over that situation and know that it's going to come to pass.
100%.
And Bible says, be not weary in well doing, mm-hmm. for in due season you shall reap if you faint not.
Right.
So if you start down that road and you have enough word where you keep getting the word to build you up and edify you,
mm-hmm.
when the time comes and Satan tries to make you give up, you won't give up.
Yeah.
Because many times you're just a few moments away.
Yeah, that's good.
In God's time.
Exactly.
From your miracle.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. I would follow up on that by saying, like, if you're going through a tough situation, if you're going through a dark season, what I would encourage you is by saying this: faith it till you make it. Faith it till you make it. You have to have faith as you're going through a situation, and it's like, man, I don't know if I believe, but every day give yourself more and more and more when it comes to, like he said, getting in the word, speaking life over that situation. Faith it till you make it. Because if I've learned anything in this previous season that stretched my faith, it is that some seasons God puts you in not for success, but for stamina. And you might be in a season right now where you're believing for something, or believing for a miracle or a breakthrough, whatever that thing is, and God is just wanting you to grow your stamina in faith so that you can go to a next level in your journey down the line. So faith it till you make it is my encouragement for today.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that.
Good. Well, this was another great episode of GOAT Talk, in my opinion, a really great conversation on faith, and hopefully that encouraged you. If this was your first time on our channel, please hit the subscribe button, hit that bell on the top right for notifications as well, so that you're notified anytime that we post. We love you guys, and we hope that you enjoyed this episode of GOAT Talk. We will see you next week.